வாழ்வில் முன்னேற்றம் அடைய உங்கள் கைராசியான டாக்டர் ஏஎஸ் மகாஷிராஜன் அவரை ஒருமுறை சந்தியுங்கள். மேலும் விவரங்களுக்கு டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷன்ல இருக்க லிங்கை கிளிக் செய்யவும்.
I'm a huge fan of all his movies. He's just a very good storyteller. Nolan is that he loves everything to be as practical as possible. So he just goes, yeah, we're going to crash the 747 and do an airplane hangar. And we're like, okay, what do we want? Miniatures or... He's like, no, I have a deal on a plane. We've been looking at it. Like a plane. Like a real plane. Like, yeah. Doubled Ryan Reynolds for Deadpool 2.
Sit tight and wait for my word.
Being Deadpool was there's a lot more me because I joke around a lot as well.
Got it? No, I don't.
Everyone who works on a movie like Deadpool is gonna have like a similar vibe. Like you can't take anything too seriously when you're on a movie like that. It was fun. I did stunts for the John Wick franchise. Doubled Keanu Reeves for that. Because they were like, what's the most random object you could fight with if you have nothing to fight with? Chad and Dave in the first one came up with a pencil. We were like, let's just bring that to life and show people what it would be like to use a pencil. Did Captain America Civil War, doubling Captain America.
The whole world was wrong about you.
He has a very boxing fight style, which I'm very familiar with. It's really funny. I remember putting the suit on for the first time, and I was just looked in the mirror, and I just had the biggest grin on my face, and I was just like, yeah. And just going through all that, and like just up on when Iron Man's against the wall, and you're just slugging with the shield. Ah, it was the greatest.
Hello, Mr. Jackson. Pleasure to have you on my show.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Tenet has been released in a few countries. It is yet to release in India, but fans here are eagerly waiting for the film. So how is the response over there?
Pretty good for where it's been able to open here. Seen some really good reviews. It's funny, a lot of my friends who are in different states and everything, they're able to see it. Keep getting texts and this and that. And then the movie's been able to open. We've heard some really good responses. George Cottle, the stunt coordinator, giving a lot of praise to the team from Stunts. And then, yeah, we're really happy with the reviews and the turnout so far.
How was it working with Mr. Christopher Nolan?
Oh, man. It was amazing. I'm a huge fan of all his movies. He's just a very good storyteller and writer. I think he writes on a completely different level. He's particular. He knows his view and what he wants. So it was really nice to collaborate with him with coming up with the action and what he was feeling and then what we were feeling. And he was very able to like kind of listen to our ideas, and we were able to collaborate and kind of make a blend. And so that's kind of where we came in, and he was able to kind of direct us in a way that he wanted the action to go, and we were able to come up with something pretty cool, I feel. And he's just very particular with what he wants, and it's really nice to see him execute his vision.
So this is the first time you're working with them, is it?
Yes, this is my first time working with him.
How many times did you read the script?
Oh man, 3 times all the way through.
3 times?
Yeah, and then occasionally it was just like some sides, but it was very difficult to get that to happen. I'm probably one of the only people on the stunt team that was able to read it, other than George and my assistant fight coordinator, Nick, as well.
Did he get locked up inside a room?
I did, yes. Sure did. It was
Nice,
very
bro.
interesting.
You guys actually bought a real plane and crashed it into a building.
What a real 747.
So how did you plan that sequence?
It was kind of one of those things that when we first heard about it, he's like, yeah, I want to do this. He does the thing with Nolan is that he loves everything to be as practical as possible, which is where a lot of the action sequences were really like, we really had to like use a different part of our brain to make it as realistic as we can. So he just goes, yeah, we're going to crash the 747 and do an airplane hangar. And we're like, okay, what do we want? Miniatures or... He's like, no, I have a deal on a plane. We've been looking at it. We're like, I'm like a plane, like a real plane. Like, yeah. And he went all the way, like through cars, through fences, into an airplane hangar. That was a set piece airplane hangar on the actual airport. But yeah,
That must have been challenging.
it was the coolest part is that we were in, like, you see people running from the cars as this plane is just on this line plowing through them. And you're just like, all right. And like looking in the rearview mirror, like 3, 2, no, just going now. Just going now and getting out of the way and just bah, bah, bah. It was awesome.
Wow.
It was definitely like a once in a lifetime experience, I hope.
So, what was the brief that Mr. Nolan gave your team before the shoot?
It's funny. We kind of have a chain of command with our stunt team. It's like George, then me, and then the rigging coordinator, and then pretty much we filter it to the rest of the team. So he spoke to George and was basically, he's like, I want action that's forward, but I also want action that's going backwards. So at the beginning, we're like, so people are like in rewind kind of a thing. And he's like, in a sense, yeah. So, and we just kind of had to go with that. We're like, all right. So we just had to go like all over the map to see what would stick.
The backward stunt sequence, that's something new your team would have heard, isn't it? So how did you plan that backwards stunt? So what was the initial thought or initial idea that your team came up with?
Actually, how I said, like in reverse, we were like, all right. So we would do every action. We'd have like everyone watching from a different angle. And they're like, all right, recreate it. So you're just like, and we would also use like, we would play stuff, we'd film stuff forwards. And then we'd try and like scroll and watch it in reverse to see like how the body would move. And then, so we just ended up trying to mimic that as much as we could. It got really funny at some points. And then it's funny because when you try to do the reverse motion organically, what you think is right is just not right at all. When you play it forwards, it was really interesting.
Which was the most challenging sequence that you shot for the film?
I feel the end war sequence was pretty intense with just that many people and having to teach that many people the forward backwards motion and action, and especially like the landscape and the location we were at was definitely not forgiving. One of the times I was really happy I was behind camera and not doing stunts in the camera, and the whole team just knocked it out of the park. We couldn't be happier.
Did the actors undergo training, any kind of training for this action sequences, especially the background action?
Definitely. Yeah, they all the main actors had to take some more than others. Like John David and Rob had a very, very intense training before filming. The rest of the actors kind of had just a little bit of a briefing, a little bit of an idea because they didn't have as much of that. So when we came up with the concept of the action and how we were going to teach it, we're like, really hope we have someone coordinated, someone that's really ready to go like gung-ho because it's going to be a lot of training. And then John David came in, and I don't think we could have been luckier. He was just so down, like training mindset was just insane. So yeah, I think the first week we were teaching him fight stuff. And then by week 2, we were already teaching him like reverse stuff. And the next week we were doing judo and jiu-jitsu with him, and he was just crazy.
Yeah, I was just checking your filmography, which was very interesting. You have done so many nice works.
Oh, thank you.
Other than Tenet. Such great films. I think we'll have to talk about that.
Oh yeah, so past films I've done. I've grown up in stunts with a team called 8711. We're basically action design, which is what helped prep me to do this movie throughout my years. I did stunts for the John Wick franchise, doubled Keanu Reeves for that. Doubled Ryan Reynolds for Deadpool 2. Did Captain America Civil War.
Yes.
Doubling Captain America. Through Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, I was kind of all over the place on that, which was fun.
The whole world was wrong about you.
So you worked as a stunt double for Chris Evans in Captain America. So what kind of training went behind that particular role?
That was more along the lines of choreography based. He has a very like boxing fight style, which I'm very familiar with. We all kind of came into it knowing the style of the fights that we wanted, but it was more along the lines of how we would react to the different characters of like Black Panther, Spider-Man, and Iron Man. You know, so it was him. It was more along the lines of trying to adapt to those different styles. So we would create their style and how they would fight, and then we would go, all right, how would you? Because it's very much like he gets beat a little bit, but then he's smart enough to adapt and make his way around their offense.
So how did the Captain America suit and the shield make you feel?
It's really funny. I remember putting the suit on for the first time, and I was just looked in the mirror, and I just had the biggest grin on my face, and I was just like, yeah. And like just walking around on set, I'm not gonna lie, you feel the coolest. It's just such a cool feeling. And especially when you have the shield in your hand and you're fighting with the shield. Like during the Iron Man fight and just going through all that and like just up on when Iron Man's against the wall and you're just slugging with the shield. Oh, it was the greatest. I did have to like work out and like I wanted to bulk up enough because at the end of the day, fighting with the shield so much, like your arm's just like, okay, like towards the end of the day because it's so heavy.
The shield is heavy and real, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean there was like a hard foam one, which is probably like, and then there was another like the actual like hero one, like the metal one. You're just like, oh man, I don't know. It was much heavier than 10 pounds.
You were the assistant stunt coordinator and also the stunt double of Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool 2.
Yes.
Deadpool 2 is definitely something different from your other films. In what ways and how was the experience?
Being Deadpool was there's a lot more me, whereas doubling Chris as Captain America is a very serious character. Deadpool, because I joke around a lot as well. And just have that similar type of humor. So I remember when Dave was talking to me about going to Deadpool. He told me how he was talking to Ryan. Ryan was like, I need a double that moves like me, that's just really like that can get the action down when it's in the suit. Me and Ryan met and stuff, and we're kind of collaborating on movement stuff. And he was like, yeah, this is gonna work. This is gonna work just fine. So, and especially being in the suit, you really like with the helmet on and everything, you just really encompass what it's like to just be, because you don't take, for some reason, you just embody the whole character and you just are joking around with everyone. And also everyone who works on a movie like Deadpool is going to have like a similar vibe. Like you can't take anything too seriously when you're on a movie like that. It was fun. You're joking around a lot and you get away with a little more joking since you're in the suit. But yeah.
John Wick. How did you end up being the stunt double of Keanu Reeves?
One of my bosses at 8711 is Chad Stahelski, who was one of the main directors of John Wick. And also, if you know, he was Keanu's main double throughout the Matrix movies and Constantine and The Replacements. And they become very good friends. And when the concept of the first John Wick came, they were like, we need a tall white guy in the sense to be this double. And Chad's like, I think I have the person.
It's John Wick.
So I went, me and Keanu met. It was nice. Really got along. They liked how I moved. I could move like him. Because a lot of times, like if you double someone, you kind of do your own movement instead of moving how the actor does. So being able to mimic how Keanu moves, because he has a very specific style. Yeah, they brought me in and they also realized they could throw me off anything and hit me with anything and I could get back up. And they were like, great. So by John Wick 3, they were just like, let's just throw everything at him and throw him off everything. And yeah, luckily it all turned out okay. Knock on wood.
In chapter 3 of John Wick, there's a fight which takes place in New York Public Library.
To leave us brutes, Dante.
A 7'3" NBA player had to kick you on your chest. So how was it? How did you handle that?
Yep. Oh man, yeah, that was a little homage to the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bruce Lee fight scene when he kicks him and he has that huge footprint on his chest. So we wanted to kind of recreate that. It was a massive foot. It's the biggest foot I've ever seen. Usually, like when you get hit, you kind of like launch yourself a little bit to like help. It was just take it and just all of that was.
You
real.
went out of frame.
Yeah, that was just him.
So how did you guys come up with using this pencil as a weapon? That was something different.
Yes, using the pencil as a weapon. So it kind of throws it back to the first John Wick when they say, because they were like, what's the most random object you could fight with if you have nothing to fight with? Chad and Dave in the first one came up with a pencil. So they just used it as a story from his past instead of just having it be a story. In Wick 2, we were like, let's just bring that to life and show people what it would be like to use a pencil. So we kind of just like planted the seed in the first one to like actually have people anticipate it and get to see it for the second one. I guess incorrectly would be the technical term. And yeah, so that's kind of how that came to play.
So how challenging was it to bring in dogs for a stunt sequence?
I love it, bro. This dog.
That was very intense. So that team is fantastic, and they actually trained those dogs since they were babies. So the stunt team, what we would do is we had to be very careful around the dogs. You know, end of the day, they are animals. No matter how well they're trained, something can just throw them off. But the dog training team did an amazing job just keeping them in line.
I will keep it.
Excuse me?
Because in the concept, John Wick, if he grabs you, you're done. And these dogs are called Belgian Malinois, and they call them Maligators because once they bite you, they do not let go. Which is also terrifying to think about when you're fighting one. So, and in the concept, if John Wick was a dog, how do you get a dog to do judo-ish moves? It was more about the reactions of the stunt guys, because the dogs are gonna, what we have are these things called tugs, and they're bright green. Green means go. And what they would do is they would just, before the sequence, you'd have to stop. The trainer would have the dog, they'd be like, spot, this and that, and the trainer would be next to him. And just, you had to make sure you turned and got the tug like into place, and they go and hit it, and they'll rip until there's a quick release, and then finally when we yell cut, they'll take that. The funny thing is what the trainers told us is like, for the dog doesn't know the difference between real life and film. So to them, they're just like, cool, I get to go rip this thing apart now. Like, it's all just that's how their brain works. And in coming up with the judo-esque technique for the dogs, it was kind of more of just wherever they hit, the stunt guys taking a judo-ish reaction, which they did great. And another thing is with, so Hallie trained nonstop with the dogs. By the end of it, like, the dogs actually responded to her like she was a trainer as well.
It was one highlight sequence from the film, I would say.
Oh, thank you.
So can you recall one memorable stunt sequence that you performed in the film, the whole John Wick series?
I would say the glass house sequence, I think, is just insane. It was so awesome, especially being able to fight with Yeon and Chechep. They are so fast and just, they're everywhere at all at once. Yeah, there's so many things that I got to do in that set piece, like the hallway with all the glass skulls and just getting thrown into 8 just panes of glass in one take, and then finally getting kicked into the wall and down. There's that. We did a huge drop. We did about a 12-foot drop on a gold tail. Just 3, 2, 1. They just let you loose, and you just smack the ground. That hurt immensely. Not the first one so much, but the second one was really, really something. Fighting Mark Dacascos was an honor of all things because he was a hero of mine growing up. One of the reasons I got into martial arts and so inspired to like pursue it and go forward more and more and more with it was Only the Strong. Fighting him was just insane, and he's just an amazing martial artist as is. So it was just it was all just amazing.
Right.
Like once in a lifetime experiences, like all over the place.
You worked as a stunt double for Keanu Reeves in all 3 John Wick movies. So how would you sum up the experience working with him?
If I had one word for me, it would be inspired.
I'm not afraid of John Wick.
Because his training ethic is off the charts. Similar to John David. John David was the closest I've seen to Keanu. Keanu would train 4 or 5 hours a day and wouldn't stop until he got something right, and just is a perfectionist. He wants to do as much as possible, and he does. He does all the stuff until we tell him we can't, or he can't. I'm like, get out of here. Let me do it. I'm expendable. You're not. Like, just get out of here. And he just inspires the rest of the stunt team because he's a no quit. Let's get it right. Let's not stop until we get it right. And probably 95% of the stunts is him.
How did you break into the field of stunts? Because being in stunt department is not something which you get to hear often.
I got into stunts by very long and random road from St. Louis, Missouri. I moved out to LA because I wanted to work in film one way or another. I was with a performance team called Sideswipe that was based out in LA. So I kind of moved out there to be a part of that. And then through being a martial artist in LA, training at different gyms, you create friends that are of similar styles. Like I remember, and I used to compete on a national circuit for martial arts. One individual who was a generation before me on that circuit was John Valera, very talented martial artist. Somehow there was a random connection of like a friend of a friend of a friend. And they were 8711 was looking for a double for Justin Chatwin for the live Dragon Ball movie. I was just coming home from my shift at a restaurant that I was working at. I get a phone call. I say, hello, this is Jackson. He's like, Jackson, hey, this is John Valera. And I remember just being like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, John Valera. I was like, hey, man, what's up? So he told me that what they're looking for a double if I ever thought to do stunts, and I was like, yeah, obviously. And he said, well, there's an audition. We'd like you to come in to possibly double this person. We just want to see what you have and this and that. So I went in, worked on some choreography with the fight team that they had, did as best as I could, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Accidents that happens very often in film industries across the world, not just Hollywood. So one such incident is in Deadpool 2, I guess. A stuntwoman lost her life. What happened?
I wasn't there on that set. I was actually on second unit. It's a fluke accident that can happen. Sometimes you just, you look away for 1 second and then something drastic happens. She was a very talented motorcycle rider. They did everything, Scott Attia, the whole team that was on that set did everything as much as they could to keep her safe, keep everyone safe, going by the books. But sometimes things just go awry and it's really unfortunate.
Jackson, you've done so many films, you have a vast range of experience. But do you still feel nervous before doing a risky stunt?
It's funny. I do want to still be in front of camera, but at the same time, I'm like, think I've done enough. And I'm really especially after Tenet, watching what everyone had to go through, with stuff like that. I was really happy to be in Video Village and behind camera, not having to kill myself anymore. But you never know. There's another John Wick. They might call my name. There's another Deadpool. We'll see. But as of right now, I'm pretty happy telling other people. Right.
So now that Tenet has released across the world in a few countries except India, what would you like to tell to the fans in India who are eagerly waiting for the film?
To everyone waiting for Tenet in India, Thank you for your support. I hope you can see the hard work that the whole cast and crew went through to make this movie for you guys. And I just want to say it's going to be a roller coaster. And I hope you guys are ready for it because it's awesome. Go see it. It'll be great.
Yes.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Jackson. It was a very nice interaction. Thank you for spending your time with us.
Thank you for having me again. Take care, okay?
All the best for all your upcoming films. We are waiting for Tenet here.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
இந்த வீடியோ உங்களுக்கு பிடிச்சிருந்தா லைக் பண்ணுங்கள். இதே மாதிரி நிறைய வீடியோஸ் பண்ண தான் போகிறோம். உங்கள் ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் அண்ட் ஃபேமிலிக்கு மறக்காமல் ஷேர் பண்ணுங்கள். என்ன தோணுதோ கமெண்ட் பண்ணுங்கள். 52 லட்சம் பேர் எங்கள் ஃபேமிலிக்கு சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. ஸோ நீங்களும் மறக்காமல் சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணுங்கள்.
வாழ்வில் முன்னேற்றம் அடைய உங்கள் கைராசியான டாக்டர் ஏஎஸ் மகாஷிராஜன் அவரை ஒருமுறை சந்தியுங்கள். மேலும் விவரங்களுக்கு டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷனில் இருக்க லிங்கை கிளிக் செய்வோம்.